Bill Stalter, Stalter.
What is your position?
Executive Director, the Ohio Nursery and Landscape Association. I was born in Lima, Ohio, and went to Lima Senior High, a proud graduate of Lima Senior High in 1959. Went to a radio school in Chicago, Illinois, where I learned to become a broadcaster. Shortly after graduation, was employed at various small radio stations around the state. I was in Lima, Salina, Piqua, and then ended my radio career after 6 years at WRFD in Columbus, Worthington. Following that, I became assistant manager of the Ohio State Fair. I was in charge of the junior fair, non-ag, the marching band, the choir, fine arts, family arts and crafts, and all those types of things. I was there for 5 fairs from 1972 through 1976. Sounds like 4 years, but encompassed 5 fairs. After that, I did find that the Ohio Nurserymen's Association at the time, that was our name, was looking for an executive director. They had not had a full-time executive director. They had the Ohio Hardware Association was administering the ONLA on a special services contract. And the board of directors at that time, headed up by Dale Manbeck as president, decided it was time for the association to get a full-time executive director. And several people applied. I was one of 3 finalists and was fortunate enough to be offered the job. Here in 2003, about 27 years later, I'm still the executive director, which is a surprise to many people. None of the more surprised than me, I guess. But it's been a wonderful career thus far. It's been great. It's challenging. I get up in the morning every day saying, oh, good, I got to go to work. So as long as I have that atmosphere and the feeling about myself, we'll go as long as we can.
A lot of the audience might not know what the Ohio Nursery and Landscape Association is and what its purpose is. Could you reflect on that?
Well, the Ohio Nursery and Landscape Association, and we became that in 1994 with a name change from the Ohio Nurserymen's Association to the Ohio Nursery and Landscape Association. 2 reasons for that name change. First of all, one was to make it gender neutral, and also to include the word landscape, because we had many more landscapers in our association than we had growers and garden centers, and we had, it was felt not a good representation of the name in the organization, so therefore we changed the name to the Ohio Nursery and Landscape Association to be more complete. It's a professional trade association. We represent nursery stock growers, garden center retailers, landscape contractors, landscape maintenance firms, allied suppliers. These would be people who sell control chemicals, statuary, mulch, fertilizers. Anything that you can find in a garden center would be considered an allied supplier of ours, any product that you might find on the shelf. We also have a student category. We have an individual category where people can join if they are members of a current member of our organization. And currently in 2003, we're at about 1,700 members. Our goals are to increase the knowledge base of our membership through educational programs. We have certification programs where people can become certified. We have training manuals. We have training manuals for grower employees, for garden center employees, and for landscape contractor employees. They can purchase the manual, study the manual at their own pace, and then we give a test several times during the year around the state. And if you pass that test, you become an Ohio certified nursery technician with a specialty in either landscape, garden center, or grower. We also are a partner with the Ohio Landscapers Association, a group based in Northern Ohio, and the Agricultural Technical Institute, Ohio State University's two-year college, in promoting and operating the ALCA, which is the Associated Landscape Contractors of America, certification program. This is a national test. It's hands-on and written. It's a little bit more complete than the Ohio test. It would be the next phase. If you pass the Ohio test, obviously the next phase you'd want to do would be take the national test. So through those educational programs, through seminars that we have, through our legislative lobbying efforts, we try to make sure that our members are represented at the State House. We try to get them educated. We have one of the largest trade shows in the country of its kind in Columbus every January, and that's where our members and others can come and see the latest products, talk face-to-face with their suppliers, see what's new and great, and also take advantage of a very complete educational short course that's held in conjunction with the show. We have several publications, one of which is our monthly publication. It's called The Buckeye, and that's how we are in touch with our members on a regular monthly basis. It has a lot of information in it, both educationally and also articles regarding business practices. We have a lot of contributing authors to it. We have an educational update as an insert. It's a 12-page insert where we have contributing authors from various walks of life within the horticultural industry and allied industries, writing about their expertise and things that are going on in their particular world of horticulture. And this is a publication, as I said, that touches the membership on a monthly basis. We also have a publication called the Nursery Stock Survey. This is a listing of nursery stock within the state of Ohio that can be purchased. It gives quantities, it gives sizes and those type of things, more or less a nursery stock locator, and this is distributed nationwide. And it's also found on our website. We have various newsletters that go out on a quarterly basis, one for our certified nursery technicians, one for our people that are in our group workers comp program. We have one called Safety First. And so we try to touch the membership in a lot of different ways through publications and through our website. Our annual trade show is called the Central Environmental Nursery Trade Show, and the acronym is CENTS, C-E-N-T-S. It is now actually the best attended show of its kind in the country, with nearly 14,500 people who attended the show in 2003, for instance. Along with that, the Ohio State University Department of Horticulture and Crop Science conducts a 3-day intense nursery short course. During the 3 days, there may be 70 to 80 educational seminars that are geared to various segments of the industry. We'll have general sessions, we'll have keynote sessions, and then in the afternoon there are what's called back to basic sessions, which are geared to the foreman level on down, that talk about the latest in pesticides, how to do this, how to do that, things that those foremen do need to know so they can communicate that to the people on their crews. So it's a very intense educational learning experience with our partnership with the Ohio State University, and it's a great component to the trade show. In 2003, we had 1,463 booths, so quite, as you can quite imagine, it takes quite a while to see everything that needs to be seen and hear everything that needs to be heard, but there's no program nationwide that compares with what we have going here in Ohio with the educational component and the large, successful trade show. The Ohio State University conducts a 3-day nursery short course in conjunction with the Scent Show, and it's a great partnership. They have exclusive rights to the short course. The ONLA has exclusive rights to the Scent Show. We kind of do our thing on the trade show floor. They kind of do their thing in the educational classrooms, and to the casual observer, it's one big happy family where you can come, you can get educated, you can see the latest products, you can go through a very extensive, large trade show, and in 3 days, there's not a component like it in the United States. The Ohio State University Department of Horticulture puts the short course together based on input from a committee. The committee will indicate that they have seen so-and-so speaker somewhere and highly suggest that maybe that speaker be contacted to see if they can speak at the short course. They also suggest topic content. The Ohio State University then takes that information, puts it together, meet again in the summertime to go over the preliminary plans, and then the short course comes to fruition with the trade show in the 3 days in January. So the short course, the OSU Nursery Short Course, is a separate entity. They pay for the speakers, they pay for all the transportation, they do charge an admission, and that is strictly theirs if they make money. And most years they do. That goes into a fund where researchers then can pull from that fund to help research some of their projects. So it's kind of a two-edged sword. Not only are they putting out quality education, but on the good years when they happen to make some money, they have an opportunity to have a pool of money for their researchers. And the Scent Show then is obviously the biggest moneymaker for the Ohio Nursery Landscape Association, and allows us to do many things like give money to the Horticultural Research Institute, which is the research arm of the American Nursery Landscape Association. We also fund local researchers on many projects. We help the university build some greenhouses both at ATI and on main campus. There are a lot of things that we do with the money, and our boards of directors have been very good stewards of that money throughout the years. And consequently, we feel that both the short course and the scent show not only pay dividends for the people who come and be educated and learn about new product, but has a residual effect down the years by providing funding for a lot of different things.
Could you talk a bit about the volunteer involvement of the members of ONLA as officers and committee?
Well, it sounds trite, and everybody in my position will say the same thing, that you couldn't exist without volunteers. But as trite as that may sound, in reality, it is absolutely true. There's no way that we could be successful without the volunteer help of our members. We have a good core of probably 200 to 250 volunteers that are appointed to various committees, and those committees change people, so it's not the same old people doing the same old things every year. We try to bring new blood in each year to get people started on a volunteer path that may lead to a seat on the board of directors. We do have a board of directors of 9 voting members. There are 11 members altogether. I'm a board of director without voting rights, and then the person who gives leadership to the OSU Nursery Short Course also is a non-voting member. But the 9 members come from the volunteer ranks from throughout the industry. Typically, the board of directors position is a 2-year position. And once in a while, a person on the board will step into the president-elect chair, then go to president and president-elect. But typically, we have a very strong board of directors that builds leadership, and they give us a lot of time back. They pay forward, there's no doubt about that. Many of our board members, in fact, go on to become leaders in the national organizations. We've had presidents of the ONLA that have become presidents of both the American Nursery Landscape Association and the Associated Landscape Contractors of America. They've also had leadership roles on many of the committees within both of those national organizations. And then somewhat there are other national organizations that have to do with lawn care and golf course superintendents and those type of things that some of our people also find a place for their volunteer effort on a national basis. Not only do we find leaders coming from the ONLA into national positions, but we have found that sons and daughters of previous presidents are going through the chairs and are becoming presidents of the ONLA. In my tenure, I've had, I believe, 3 so far, where I've had the dads as presidents, and then 20 years later or so, I'll have the sons. I don't tell you how old I am and how long I've been there, but that's another story, and we don't have time for that. But it's a great place for learning how to give some of the time back to the industry that you've prospered in. Well, when I started in 1976, I inherited mostly a grower organization, and to some extent, probably 80% growers and the other 20% made up of garden centers and landscape contractors. Throughout the years, though, we found a great proliferation of landscape contractors coming into the business and therefore looking for a professional organization, and chose the ONLA as the place to hang their hat as far as an association is concerned. And the biggest growth, I should say, in the horticulture industry has been in the landscape contracting end of it. And I believe that's because many of the 2-year tech schools, if you will, offering associate degrees, have put together very extensive landscape contracting courses. And there are about 9 schools now within the state of Ohio here in 2003 that do have 2-year associate degrees in horticulture, mainly from a landscape contractor point of view. So we find that landscape contracting has come to the forefront over the years, and most associations around the country. It's not just been the ONLA, but most other state associations have seen the same thing. And most states, with the exception, I think, of 2 or 3 that come to mind, have changed their names to reflect the landscape component as we have. In fact, our national organization has also changed their name. They used to be the American Association of Nurserymen up until a few years ago, at which time they included the word landscape and became the American Nursery Landscape Association. So landscaping has actually come to the forefront over the last several years. That's not to negate the importance, obviously, of the grower and the retailer, because the grower grows it, the retailer sells it, and the landscape contractor installs it. So it's a great component of three entities working together. That really is the core membership of the ONLA.
You've seen a lot of growth in your time at ONLA. Could you talk a little bit about that?
I can only talk about it from my tenure point of view, and so we'll go back to 1976 when I started. We had about 400 members. Some 27 years later or so, we're at 1,700 members. Our trade show had 110 booths back in 1976. In 2003, we had 1,463 booths. When I started, our annual budget was $50,000. Now it's $1.7 million. And so consequently, a lot of things have happened, mostly good, not only for the association, but for the industry as a whole. If the industry did not prosper, obviously the association wouldn't prosper.
This growth that's happened has happened statewide, and it's happened in the nation. Could you talk about growth in the industry overall?
The industry has continued to grow. We take scope reports every year. Actually, we began our first scope report in 1988. And this is an anonymous survey of all licensees in the state of Ohio. I should say, to be in the business in the state of Ohio, you need one of two licenses. If you grow nursery stock, you need what's called nursery stock producer's license. If you sell nursery stock, either as a landscape contractor, a retail garden center, a mass merchandiser, a grocery store, you have to have what's called a nursery stock dealer's license. So we decided back in 1988, because nobody knew the value or the scope of our industry, that we'd take it upon ourselves to hire an outside firm to do a survey as to what is the scope. And we settled on dollars in sales of all entities that were licensed. And back then, we had sales of $1.25 billion. That's billion with a B. That was in 1988. In 2001, the last survey that we did, that had climbed now to $2.78 billion. So in that short period of time, you can see where the industry has certainly grown. In fact, since 1996, the industry grew over 42% just in that short 5-year period. So the early 90s and through the last remaining years of the 20th century, the industry has just, pardon the pun, blossomed. In the state of Ohio, the industry employs over 90,000 people. Some of those are full-time, some seasonal, some part-time, but the total, over 90,000 Ohioans have jobs due to the Ohio nursery industry. And to show you how important it is to the state of Ohio, the industry altogether paid $274.9 million in taxes. So consequently, you can tell that while seemingly it may be small compared with other major industries in the state of Ohio, certainly we're a very important cog in the economy of the state. While there's no real way that we can gauge ranking, because there are so many numbers floating around out there, the USDA will say that we're ranked somewhere. Somebody else will say we're ranked someplace else. But if you took all the information and tried to extrapolate it to meaningful numbers, we would have to say that we're probably somewhere between 5th and 7th in the state or in the country as far as nursery stock production is concerned. As far as trade shows are concerned, run by associations like ourselves, we, as of 2003, had the best attended show of its kind. If you count trade show booths, we were probably 3rd largest of its kind in the country. So consequently, when you put all those figures together and melt it down to some meaningful number, you'll have to say that we're somewhere ranked in the top 5 in many different areas of horticulture.